Welcome to From the Ashes, the Dungeon Crawler Network podcast all about Ashes of Creation by Intrepid Studios. Bear witness to the rebirth of the MMORPG genre from the ashes of an industry that has left the gamers behind. I'm Aggelos, founder of the Dungeon Crawler Network, and we are coming to you live from the Mighty Beer Tavern, where we are going to discuss U.S. politics. No, we're really not.
Thumbs up.
Though we were discussing that just prior to this, so that was...
It was fun.
It was, actually.
I learned a lot as a Canadian. It was fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's always fun when you can discuss politics with chill people without it lighting into a bonfire. But, yeah, well. Anyway, no, we're just kidding. We're not ever going to do that on the show. But I'm joined by my awesome co-host, Alpha Soul. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing good.
And fresh off of leveling a rogue, Mr. Crowjack.
These peanut butter cookies are to die for. Freshly baked. They were made like 3 hours ago. Oh my god, they're so good.
Okay. Before we even talk about the show, I got a few things to talk about. First off, I went to the store and I got Chessman cookies from Pepperidge Farm. I don't know if you guys have ever had those.
What are Chessman cookies?
They're like butter biscuits, but they're a cookie.
Okay.
They're like a butter cookie. That's what it's called.
Oh wait, hold on. Let me look this up. What you're talking about. It might be my favorite cookie as well too.
They're so good. And actually, I'm sad that Hypercore Ripper isn't here because my wife and we were watching the Great British Bake Off. Okay, and these guys are making what they were calling biscuits. Okay. But they're like cookies because they're sweet. In my mind, when I hear biscuit, I think like a bread type thing where it's like for a sandwich or
dinner
a cracker
or whatever. Yeah.
But they were making it that they were cookies, but they had to be hard. And I'm killing myself that I don't have Nate, one of our Tales of Tamriel co-hosts here. He's from London to discuss about biscuits.
Well, I don't think I've had that same thought for some reason because I grew up eating Ovaltine biscuits. And Ovaltine was sweet to an extent. And so yeah, I've kind of always thought, and it's no, that's strange because I've called everything else cookie except for the thing that you're talking about, Aggelos, the Chessman, because I just looked them up. I would have called that a biscuit, not a cookie.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's almost like a cracker in consistency. But it's kind of baked hard. Oh, it's so good. Second thing, while I was there, I got my wife and son a bag of grapes called cotton candy grapes that literally taste like cotton candy.
But they're a grape.
They're grapes. We actually had to look it up. Apparently, it took them 12 years to develop this with interbreeding thousands and thousands of plants to get just the right flavor. They 100% taste like cotton candy.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right.
It's the weirdest thing I've ever had. But you're not here to talk about food, though we should probably do that.
Are we?
Well, we are in a tavern. I mean,
True. Haven't gotten a drink for God knows how long, but all right.
maybe we'll get biscuits. Yeah. So there we go. We do have a fun show planned because there are a handful of things to talk about. Not a whole lot, but we got some Snapchat leaks. A new monthly cosmetic is now available, and we are going to go over the live stream that was held on the 29th of August. There were some neat things showed up there. It wasn't an overly exciting live stream, though.
Yeah, not when you're like us and you've watched every single one.
Yeah.
Right? Not a whole lot of new information.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we'll go over that, too, because there's some pretty cool stuff. So let's go ahead and jump right on into this. First up, we actually did have a sneak peek, if you will, at their new studio, which they had talked about. So I'm going to go ahead and try to pull that up here a while. But the studio actually looks pretty nice. It's apparently like 31,000 square feet.
It does look nice. Yeah.
Yeah. And it supposedly can fit like 180 people working there.
Cool.
That's pretty big. I'm trying to compare my office and thinking how many people do we fit. Yeah, that's pretty nice.
Yeah. And I guess there's other tenants. They have the entire second floor. So We'll actually go ahead and play. I'm going to mute it, though, because there's really no
Yeah, I wanna
need
see
in
this.
hearing it. So they're showing the parking lot's pretty. It's a pretty nice looking building on the outside, but you'll actually see as they're doing their walkthrough here if you're watching live. If you're listening to the podcast, there will be links below. It looks like
we will verbally color and paint for you a depiction. Beautiful open foyer, modernistic style, hot lighting, really weird looking orange chairs and a foyer thing going on. Nope, it's gone. That was short.
Yeah, no, it wasn't an overly long one. Here, let me actually see if I can pull up some of the images as well while we're talking about it, because there was some still images. But it's nice to see that they're moving forward with this one.
Yep.
Because we've been talking about this for a while, and this actually comes courtesy of Alluring Secrets, who must be, I don't know, stuck to Snapchat, because I don't use it for anything, really.
Gotcha.
But, okay. Well,
Yeah, it's like probably the one of few that I don't use Snapchat.
yeah, I'm not a Snapchat person myself, but there we go. More pictures of the studio. More studio hype. So actually, that's a pretty neat photo right there showing some of the cubicles going back, and what I'm seeing, some glass doors maybe for the conference room, or even maybe possibly a
Meeting
server
rooms
room.
or
Yeah.
yeah.
And the other thing, I'm seeing a lot of those, like the tables, basically. Like it's the classic, what is it, like Scrum, or sorry. Yeah, it's the classic, basically, Scrum table where, you just get up off of your desk and you just meet it there and
4 floors.
chat away. Yeah.
Yep, the building that they're moving into is 4 floors. They have the entire second floor. There's 2 tenants on the first floor, according to Steven, and the rest of the building is not done, but they'll have expansion rights to it.
I'm curious how many meeting rooms they have, because that's always the fighting point, is the meeting rooms.
We got a picture here of the conference room.
Oh yeah, that looks like the big conference room, though.
Yeah, the big conference room. Some of the break rooms and the lunchroom itself. It actually looks really nice from an office perspective. It really does. But that being said, their old studio looked nice as well.
Yep.
Like, I really like their old studio. But, it really comes down to space, right? Like, is this going to be enough space? And if it's 4 floors and there's only 2 floors that are currently finished, and they have expansion rights to the next floors, that's considerable.
Yeah.
If
And
they
it
need
paints the picture and it informs us that they're investing in their product. They're investing in their company, and they're expanding their company to hopefully build this fantastic MMORPG that we want.
Right. And some people don't look at things like this as important, but I'll tell you what. The studio that made Shroud of the Avatar literally just closed its studio, and everyone's working remotely now.
That's not a good thing.
It is not.
That is not a good thing.
Yeah, that's the sign of shady, underhanded potential, right? A little sketch going on there.
Little sketch, but for me, it's more of a. It's more. I wouldn't trust that product that's coming out, because I don't believe that they're working to their full potential.
Yeah, it's not like that one company that had 2 employees and they wanted $25,000 to build this game and they raised $200,000. It's not that one we talked about in the other podcast.
Yeah.
It's not that level of like, oh wow, this is sketchy.
Right.
Yeah, it's not that level. No.
Not that level.
No, but there is something to be said for having an office space. As much as I would love personally to work remotely, there's something to be said about working in a nice office space because you have that creativity together.
Right? Oh yeah, working from home is terrible. Who would do that?
And I mean, for at least creating these, the cool thing that I know, I literally just hired for a position, to fill a product owner position for our team, and one of the requirements was that the person had to be able to, obviously work in person in Virginia, rather than it being a remote position that they worked out of. Even though they would be closer to me, they wouldn't be closer to the team, and having that team together just to be able to get up and talk to a person rather than send an email or go through blah blah blah. I think it makes a huge difference. So having that space that you can go ahead and expand and have everyone in office, I wouldn't be surprised if at a later date, they came back and said that was a big acceleration point that they had when they increased their space.
And from a creative standpoint, having people together allows for that brainstorming and coming up with, oh, that's a neat idea, just on the offhand cuff of, hey, I said something or I gave a peer review. It's different when you're not in person. It really is.
Yeah.
The next image we got here is armor leaks from the Snapchat. I'm going to try to blow that up on the screen again. If you're listening to us via the audio feed, there will be a link to this in the description.
White one's cool. They're both cool. I like the white one.
I mean, they're the same thing
Yeah.
from an armor design point. But this, I think, is definitely the human-style armor. It's a breastplate, what looks like scale mail down the legs to a certain extent, and the rest being leather, pauldrons, gauntlets. I really like it. But again, that's more my style of realism.
I want bigger. I want more bigger, much more bigger.
That reminds me of a shredder.
Full plate, freaking intimidating thing. Maybe that's more of an end game kind of style. These are very slim and form fitting. I want something just bulky and intimidating, something that is unrealistic to move in, not like Aggelos who wants it to be realistic. No, give me that thing that strikes fear into the heart of my enemies. That makes me look like I weigh 5 times what I should weigh. Just huge.
When you're wearing armor that big, it's easy to avoid you.
Magic, wizards. It's magically enhanced. I move fast, lol. It's a fantasy game. I can do whatever I want. Wizards, magic. It's beautiful.
That's how it goes. That's how it goes.
That's my answer to everything. It's my cop out for everything.
I think that's everyone's cop out for everything.
In a fantasy RPG, yeah.
Now, what do you think, Alpha Soul?
I think it looks. You guys remember the Shredder way back when? For some reason or another, the armor on the left reminds me of it. The darker armor.
From Ninja Turtles?
Yeah, the Shredder from Ninja Turtles.
Ah, okay. Now I'm starting to see it a little bit. Yeah. Now, if it had some really cool spikes coming off the arms, that would cement the look for sure. Right?
Oh yeah.
Those really cool talon things coming off his arms.
Yeah.
Alpha Soul will get this one. You know what the red one reminds me of, Alpha Soul?
Sure. What?
The warrior artifact gear from Final Fantasy 14. 2.0.
Oh yeah, it kind of does. Yeah.
The gold breastplate is very brave. It's red under armor, so the leathers and the cloth are red. The outer plates are black. The banded plate and the actual shoulder pads are black, but it has this bright, glowing, like shiny golden chest plate. It's very brave from a color perspective. Trying to paint a picture for our podcast audience.
No, that's good. I actually want to bring this up because let me see if I can find it. This is actually from our discussion because I was going back and forth with one of our guild members about the armor. Excuse me, I'm still trying to get over a cold for everyone that's here. And how I liked it versus what we've seen thus far. And one of the complaints they had made was it still looks like pajamas. So when I asked what they meant, they said it's very form-fitting. This doesn't seem as form-fitting as some of the other stuff I see for me personally. But shout out to Voxiv V. Says, regarding their critique of the skin-tight aspect, I think it's worth considering that we are looking at modeling without physics, just the mesh, basically. They could do a ton with these to change how they look and wear on the body with things like cloth weights, elasticity, etc. A loose fabric, leather, and chainmail could all look pretty flat, for example, but in animation will behave very differently.
That is a very good point.
Yeah. Also, we're seeing these these pieces in sets, but in game, they will likely be varied and mixed up quite a lot. We still don't know how crafting affects aesthetic options, so it's possible there will be a ton of variety, and this is just one of the default options.
Everyone's talking about the form-fitting thing because what we're seeing for materials are cloths, leathers, what looks like leather strips, and a lot of, like they said, very tight to the body. I think what people are looking for is what you would traditionally see as big old full plate. Just plates and plates and plates, giving them that big, bulky, medieval knight or fantasy look. I haven't yet seen a set look like that. I'm curious when they're going to introduce that kind of an appearance. I'm also trying to think back to some monthly cosmetics. Did any of them go the the full plate route yet? Or
Yes.
I've seen like the plate helm, I've seen a plate chest, but with also leather parts. So I'm trying to like
protector, the one that I showed you guys before. That is
Isn't it the
more
one with like
stuff
the
like that.
loincloth? Or what I call the
Did the
loincloth?
Professor
It's like
have
a cloth
loincloth?
that hangs in between your legs.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Yeah.
Ashes of Creation.
And the weird part is there's the running meme with that one when they showed the concept art, because it was the loincloth that hung down right through the crotch, and there was a big red spot right there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this protector armor is very close to what I want to see more of in different variations and color schemes. This is traditional full plate here.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would love to see that. And just that particular one. And we'll actually see later on, which I'm really excited to do, when they start going back and modeling some of the cosmetics. So, yeah. I like it, so I'm really excited for that armor. Okay. Moving on, we actually do have a new cosmetic package. I'm going to pull that up for the screen as well. There we go. Actually, it's not up on the screen yet because I don't have it fitted. No.
One job.
I know. I had one job and I do it forgettably. The Order of Luminous Levin is the new pre-order cosmetic for this month, and I actually just have the whole thing up in the background. We've got the Coil of Crackling Skies, which is the accessory. The Guardian Nimbus, which is a pet. Thundering Bolt Beast, which may be a pet.
Is it a pet or a mount? This is what I'm trying to figure out looking at this.
Mount as well.
Because you've got that tornado dude looks like it should be a pet, which means the bird thing is not a pet. And maybe a gliding mount? Because that is an epic looking gliding mount.
Right. Garb of the Silent Hurricane and the Thunderhead Longboat, as well as the Shadowed Spire. Let's talk about each one of these in turn. Again, the Coil of Crackling Skies is a ring, which they're talking about it creating an aura around you. So it would be like a storm aura.
Like maybe electricity.
Yeah, because I
crackling
highly doubt they're going to animate rings and necklaces. The only game I've ever seen that did anything with jewelry was Final Fantasy XIV. I guess arguably BDO, you could have your nose rings and stuff like that, but they were...
Thank you. I was going to ask that. Why make such a beautifully detailed ring if no one's ever going to see it?
Yeah.
I don't know, because even in Final Fantasy XIV, you could see your rings, but the second you put gauntlets on, unless they were fingerless gloves, you didn't see the rings anymore.
Fingerless gauntlets. Yeah, baby.
Yeah. I honestly think if you're getting this, you're getting it for the aura.
Which we don't know what it's going to look like until 8 months from now when they reveal it, and we're like, oh, I should have bought it. But it was 8 months ago.
I see Mr. Powers
Thanks,
D.
Dad.
Will they be able to see rings on the actual character? We don't know that yet, but like I said, out of all the MMOs that I've ever seen, I only know 2 that actually show jewelry off.
And as Chad is saying, they don't need to model this thing in 3D. They can just use that image as the icon, right?
Yeah.
Or your inventory slot.
Here's a concern I have with this.
Okay.
And this goes all the way back to Guild Wars 2. The overabundance of auras on everything.
I was just going to say that.
The one thing that kills me in Guild Wars 2, especially now, everything, and I mean everything, has an aura or a glow. The running meme is if you don't have at least like 10 auras stacked upon each other, it's the whole BDO. If it's not pen, it's pry. It's not having one aura. I've seen characters who are so bright, you can't even look at them. I am not big on auras, especially if they're a permanent thing. Thoughts?
Everything we see in these cosmetics are so beautiful and amazing. I fear it's just going to make everything look beautiful and amazing and just kind of tone down the whole thing as a whole.
When everything is special, nothing is special.
That's a bit of my fear.
That's my worry. Yeah. Because I have no doubt that these are going to look excellent.
Oh, phenomenal.
yeah, if everything looks awesome, basically off of that, and everything is extraordinary, everything has an aura. Or I won't say everything, but if a ton of things have auras, then it reduces the fact that a couple people could have items. Like I would rather it be the reverse, where everything is normal, if you could say, and it's reserved for the specialness of that aura, if you will.
And well, and here it is. The two games that we probably play the most, Guild Wars 2 and WoW. When Guild Wars 2 first came out, auras were literally reserved for legendary weapons. When you had a legendary, you had an aura. You had something, but you completed a legendary item. It was special. In WoW, well, we're playing Classic right now. All of the armor's normal. When you started to see the tier pieces, they were special because they were hard to get.
So from a business standpoint, they have put out sets in these monthly cosmetics that were mundane in nature. And their return on investment for the time spent to make them and blah, 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 blah was probably not there. Their sales are probably way down. So here they are making some beautiful pieces that, if that's a mount, that thing looks fantastic. I think chat was saying that's the mount, that bird thing. That looks phenomenal. I can't wait to see what it'll be like to ride that. Or the pet. Or a ring with an amazing aura. If they keep pumping out these amazing things, sure, they might make some money now, but day one, when this game launches and people slap on their cosmetics on their stuff, like, what's this game going to look like? What's the world going to look like?
Maybe I know. Never mind.
No,
I was going to bring up a funny meme that I saw.
You should.
What was that?
It's the resident meme maker, Cambiguous, made this meme that was circulating Reddit with this warrior basically saying, like, day one of Ashes of Creation. He's like, behold.
All my stuff.
Yeah. My stuff. Yeah.
I did see that. That was good, Cam. That was real good.
I was laughing
Unless
my
the
butt
developers don't let you slap on these epic looking cosmetics until you reach a certain point in the game. That functionality doesn't exist until a certain level.
Here's the thing. All these cosmetics are skins.
Yes.
So other than maybe pets, let me rephrase that. You would still need to have the item to skin it over.
Yeah.
A gliding mount, per se. When do you get a gliding mount in the game? That's a good question.
Yeah. That may be something you can only do once you own a royal mount.
No, the royal mount is the actual straight up I fly mount. Gliding mount is separate to that.
They did say, again, there will be some mounts with different lifespans and stuff, but gliding and royal mounts, when you are no longer in royalty, your flying mount is, if it doesn't disappear, it only glides.
I was under the impression that, when you get the royal mount, the full on flying mount, will turn into a gliding mount after that.
Yeah. Now, there are some mounts that literally have a lifespan of it'll die and you don't get it anymore. But if it's a mount that you keep, once you are no longer in power, you may still have the skin, but it loses its flying capacity. It's only.
But what about these costumes? Like the really cool looking costumes with the cool mist around them. Am I able to wear those at level 1? Am I able to slap down my cosmetic on my skin at level 1 and look like that?
Probably. Especially if it's just a costume slot.
Yeah. It's going to be crazy.
Yeah. I mean...
Right, because these Kickstarter people, if they can't use their cosmetics day one of the MMO, they'll be upset.
You know what would be a very good option? I really hope that they do this, because this would, I think, solve a lot of these issues that we're talking about. What if they made a hide store-bought skin?
They do.
They're planning on that, I believe.
From your client side, I can turn off all store-bought cosmetics and use default-based models.
Specifically store-bought?
Well, they said
cosmetics?
default models, so maybe they'll add a store-bought one, but you can hide all the flashy cosmetics, which I plan to do.
So you know for sure that dude's wearing leather and not a gown.
Right. Well, so what I would like for that, and I'm trying to, I guess, specify some characteristics here. What I would like for that is I would still like to see special effects if the person earned it in game.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I would want to restrict anything that comes across that is not, that was not earned.
Interesting.
That would be my requirement.
It would be neat if they would have both the disable all for those who don't even want to see flash of any kind, and disable store-bought.
You know what's
okay,
funny
gotcha.
though? The disable all might be bad from a tactical standpoint. Because if you're not aware that that dude has a legendary blah 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 as an actual thing, that's bad.
Well, if it's a legendary item, it would be the in-game model, though, not a cosmetic.
But if the in-game model has a really cool glow effect and that glow effect is disabled by disable all glow effects, that could be proving problematic from a tactical standpoint.
This is true.
It should not include that. It should not include in-game legendaries if those legendaries have crazy effects.
Well, that's why even World of Warcraft, you can't transmog a legendary item.
Yep.
Because they,
And if I
they
remember,
didn't want you to hide that. They didn't want people to know that you didn't have that or that.
yeah, that my Thunder Fury is just a regular old like gray sword. Lol.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I remember some of the live streams in the past, I recall the developers talking about the legendaries. People asked, "Are these legendaries going to have glowy, crazy effects?" And I remember them, I don't think word for word, saying that they wanted the legendaries to have tasteful, subtle, glowing effects. Right? I recall the developers talking about that. And here we are staring at a screen of gorgeous looking things that are not subtle, that are not chill. And there's a laundry list of cosmetics we've seen so far that are not subtle
Right.
and not subdued. Like, hell, the glowing lightsaber weapons from APOC. Okay?
Yeah.
I'm scared. I'm scared where this is going from an artistic standpoint. Again, these are so beautiful, but if you keep pumping out stuff like this,
And here's the idea. I love when you use the word subtle, because subtle is subjective to the people. I mean, I know we talked about politics a little earlier, and
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about it in great detail, but you used a great example of your idea of right and left is so vastly different being Canadian than the U.S.
Yes.
right and left.
yes,
Our
perspective.
idea of subtle is obviously vastly different from what Steven's idea of subtle is.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because that whatever it is, hold on, I gotta find it. The thundering bolt beast that looks like a Quetzalcoatl or whatever it is, the Aztec.
Quetzalcoatl, I think?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is what it reminds me of, and that thing is not subtle by any means.
No.
Yeah.
But out of this cosmetic pack, are you guys gonna upgrade any of them? Are you gonna get any of them?
I already got the ones that I wanted actually from it.
Which
so
were?
what did I get?
That mount.
I got
I'm
the-
eyeballing that mount right now. Like,
Is that a mount?
I think we have confirmation of the chat that the developers mentioned it was a mount, or that someone mentioned.
I don't know if they mentioned it was a mount, but I'm gonna just take a logical leap because they already have the Guardian Nimbus.
Yep.
That would
Guardian
fill
Nimbus.
that would fill the storm elemental. That would be
Yeah,
the
the
pet
tornado dude's a
slot.
pet,
Yeah.
Oh, okay, got it. Yeah, yeah.
and since he's the pet, logically that bird thing's a gliding mount.
Interesting.
I see chat
Yeah.
saying it was Lieutenant Toast did confirm it was a mount. So
Okay.
God.
I both like the garb of the Silent Hurricane because it reminds me of Mike Dervish from Guild Wars 1.
Yeah.
And I love that Arabic Arabian Nights look.
Also,
Yeah.
same question we've had with previous store cosmetics. That building, we have scale. There's a person. There's the side of the building. How much space on my freehold is that thing going to take up?
Oh, that is a person. But how
That's a
far
person.
away is he?
Yeah, is that front
Yeah.
gate like you see him standing by the gate, but is that front gate like a long hallway you walk through? In which case,
Yeah. How big is that building, man? Look at the little flags on the top of those towers. Like, how big is this building?
I mean, to be frank, that little man right there, given the forced perspective that you're looking at, it's only about
Yeah.
3 times. If 3 guys stood on each other's shoulders, they'd be able to climb over the wall. Like, if
Yeah.
it's that big, I don't know.
So that wall is what, 18 feet up ish? Ballpark it? 20 feet maybe? Like, yeah, that's a big old building.
Yeah,
I did get that.
yeah. I really like
Yeah.
the Thunderhead longboat because it's literally a Viking boat.
Yeah, that's just a straight up Viking boat with a
I will
thunderbolt.
probably
sail.
get that. That's the one I
The
will probably
most
throw down.
subtle of everything we see here. The most chill.
Yeah, but I love the Viking longboats, and that
No.
is 100% a Viking longboat.
Yeah, that's Viking style.
So I will definitely get that. Yeah, that's the only one that I really like. All right, so that was the Order of the Luminous Levin. That is available if I, had done my homework from September 4th, which is already available, all the way to the 2nd of October. So still got 2 more weeks on that, I believe.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next thing in our notes, which is the live stream. So, again, I want to give a shout out to the guys over at Intrepid. I love the way that they break things down for the engineering and environment teams.
Yeah.
I remember watching this because I was watching it on Crojack, your stream, because you did a live review.
Yeah, I was doing a reaction and commentary over the live stream.
Let's talk about.
Cool.
Yeah, it was cool. I got to hang out in his chat and we talked about it. But overall, if I remember correctly, it just wasn't an overly impressive live stream.
No, they didn't have enough new. Like some live streams, they dropped some really cool stuff and they gave us some cool tidbits. We learned some new stuff. This one didn't have as much of that.
Yeah. There wasn't enough that dropped within the month.
Yeah.
It feels like to kind of go over, if you will. Yeah.
I know during the engineering team updates, I mean, they talked about a bunch of little stuff, a lot of back-end things that aren't overly exciting. They talked about the new account services tools. But one of the things that stuck out to me is when they talked about some of the planned stuff they have for the website includes like an armory system from WoW.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do like that. I like
Yes,
that
I'm glad that's in the pipeline.
I'm actually really curious from the account side how much information they're going to let us pull from the website. From guild-related stuff, I would love API to pull guild activity, to pull guild bank status and things of that nature. But
yeah,
I really
the spreadsheets.
Yeah, kind of like on that. I'd like to see them go a little further too. I'd like to see some in-game method to kind of tie together tracking, if you will. Right? Guild member X completed this or did this or was here or did that. Some method that you could, kind of not necessarily buy into, but invest into in order to get better at. Like, I would like to see some way to, because they talked about economics, they talked about religion. I'd like to see some way to become like an information broker type guild, if you will, by getting better at gathering information, if you will.
That's interesting.
As a potential option.
Nice. One of the things I'm going to highlight here, and this is actually from Shaz's live transcript, says we definitely have a lot of work to do on the horizontal scaling of our servers. So the more bandwidth we have to funnel players through our matches is where we saw core issues, but we'll be rolling out some changes before the next test. One of the big changes you will have noticed in the recent test is the loading into the staging area was incredibly quick. This is due to the new method we are working on with spooling to spin up the area beforehand to prepare it for players coming in. I get that from an instance. I know they say this directly contributes to the MMO, ensuring that load times for instances and dungeons, etc., is more streamlined. That's great for instances, but I thought we were utilizing instances very sparsely.
Yeah, I thought a lot of open world dungeon stuff. Now, that's their intention, right? They intend to have everything open world and not as instanced. But as we talked about previously, Stormzord brought us up too. Like, they may go in with the best of intentions to do that, but through actual testing based off of server load and number of people, they might need to instance things. Node sieges.
I really think you're going to have to instance node
They're just going to have to. They're going to do their damnedest to make it work. They're going to try so hard to make it work. They're going to push that for as long as possible, but eventually I think they're going to give in.
Yeah, I don't know. Definitely. Now, and they also talked about APOC. The one thing with them trying to look at the back-end related stuff and how it holds up, they said they had some initial issues during the test that it took a hot fix to fix right away. We still haven't seen squads yet.
That is true. We have not
Maybe
seen
next test,
squads.
we'll see.
No. And I see chat asking about they won't have layering, will they? I think layering wouldn't be possible in an area that requires you to, I don't know, the world changes. We're all playing WoW Classic right now. We know they're utilizing layering heavily, but the world doesn't really change in WoW Classic.
Yeah. Like, how are you going to handle if everything is persistent off of that, and everything that you do, for example, raiding a town, right, or declaring war or node wars? How do you handle that with an instance, right?
Yeah.
I don't think you can.
Or a layer, yeah.
Other than the idea of like the Winds of Change that was added into Warhammer, Winds of Change was just their way of going, our servers can't handle this anymore, so only so many people can be on the map, and they flooded you away. But that doesn't feel good when you go to defend a node, but sorry, that instance is at max capacity, so you just have to wait and hope your team wins.
Yeah.
And that also sucks when a group of players, like a very large guild, is able just to flood the instance early, and there's no one but them.
Yeah.
I mean, currently, I don't think we have any guild that is quite to that size, but we all know there are massive guilds out there.
Just
like
waiting in the wing.
Goon Squad, for one, is thousands of players. You've seen that in EVE.
Yeah.
That if they could bring that many players, they could literally lock an instance down to no one but themselves.
Yeah.
Causes an issue. But I'm still of the notion that I think when we get to the MMO, we're going to see more instancing than what they originally wanted.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see a lot of it.
Unless they have some tech that we're not familiar with, we haven't seen before, right? Unless there's some new way and they figure out how to pull it off.
But I can tell you right now, they don't have it in place yet. So they either have to figure out exactly what it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they don't have that ready.
Yeah, and as we go through Alpha 2 into the betas, we'll know by the betas whether they're going to be instancing things or not. They'll have those decisions made by the time they get into betas.
I just think you're going to have to. I really do.
Like, what do you guys think is going to be instanced?
Node sieges, especially of the Metropolis size.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Sorry. I didn't realize what you guys were talking
specifically that.
Public dungeons.
There may be other instances, public dungeons.
There will be a
There
cap.
might not be too many people, depending.
They will use layering, where once you go into it, it's public to an extent.
If you layer a public dungeon, that means you have multiple bosses. That means you have more loot flooding the market than you expected.
Yeah. No, I agree.
So, I don't know.
I just don't think they're going to be able to make it truly massive without crashing the instance server. And when I say instance server,
it's not one server. But
no, I'm not referring it to being an instance by itself, but the server that's particularly holding.
Yeah.
When you're looking at one of these games, it's not the entire world on one server in most cases.
No,
it's
segmented.
Yeah. So when you pass zones, even open non zone walls, there is an invisible handshake that happens.
Yeah,
that pulls
you're handed off from server to server.
It's just all in the background, but that server can still crash.
So what I'm curious to see is, are they going to have technology in place that if enough people enter an area or congregate in an area, can they bring online additional servers automatically to help support that space? Yeah. Is that the technology they might be hoping to?
Yeah, but that also then is
overall
layering, because generally it's one server per a specific group of areas.
Yeah.
But when you're bringing in multiple, you're creating that layering where people get funneled based on load balancing to this instance, this instance, this instance, which works for open world leveling zones. Like we saw that in Classic. When there's too many people in this version of Dorotar, guess what? There's 15 different layers.
Yeah.
That does not work when it comes to a node siege.
Yeah, when there's a single objective that all these people are trying to work on.
I personally think castle sieges will be instanced. Like, not the zone, but when the siege happens, when you queue, there will be like a sign-up system, and you get everyone layered to a specific layer for that to happen.
When the siege occurs, maybe if you walk into the zone of influence of the siege, you'll be prompted with do you want to enter the siege or do you want to not enter the siege?
Well,
If
you will.
you enter the instance.
Yeah. Exactly, if there's room. I think node sieges are going to be instanced.
Yeah.
And the idea of a layer. Like, once the layer fills up, that's it. If you go there, the city will not be under siege. It'll be like there's a siege going on, just so you know. Yeah. Depending on who wins, the city may not be there. You know?
That destroys the vision of what they want to accomplish. But you're right. Like, that is the most likely outcome. That is that resolution. Instancing these large-scale events.
Right.
They don't want that. But
I just don't see how they would be able to do it.
Hey, if they can prove us wrong, I'll be so happy. Like, please prove us wrong. That'd be phenomenal if you can pull it off.
But we've seen what happened during large-scale stuff in EVE Online. They literally have to use time dilation and slow the server down.
Yeah.
So that it's not catching on fire.
Yeah.
In EVE, that can happen because of the way EVE is played.
Yeah.
That cannot happen in a hybrid action combat game.
Yeah.
It just can't.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because, I mean, if we're boiling it down, it's can one instance house the entire server?
Mm-hmm. Or maybe not all 10,000 people. Maybe like 2,000 people. But still, that's 2,000 people in a space.
Right.
In an area. Like, that's a bonkers numbers.
Yeah, but you could potentially...
What if half the server shows up? You're right.
I mean, potentially you got to plan for the worst, right? And the worst thing is that the entire server shows up, right? And what do you do in that case?
Yeah. I can't visualize that number of character models in visual range. You wouldn't have all 10,000 people in visual range because the Metropolis is massive. They'd be all around the Metropolis or inside the Metropolis, but still, like, wow, that'd be insane.
Especially if you're trying to promote these political systems like you have in EVE. The reason why EVE's wars get so large is because you have so many linked kind of corporations and alliances, and it just becomes a huge, massive war. And if this is what you're promoting with it, then I think it's going to come along. It's going to happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So...
And quickly, before we move on to the Q&A, there were a few other little things in here. I know they talked about gameplay design team. They're working on, again, revitalizing the combat, working on itemization and destruction. And I think we're going to start seeing a change to how melee combat works in regards to ranged players, like further iterations on what we've already seen during the last test.
Oh.
Yeah. There's also a handful of images, which, again, you'll be able to see, but I'm going to pull one up because we are running out of time for this. But the one I'm actually going to pull up is the horses model, because we had talked about this earlier.
Jacked horses.
Well, yes, jacked horses definitely, but more the idea that these were all Kickstarter models and summer models that we're now seeing actually made, not just concept art.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
We got the... I keep wanting to say it's like the Dawn horse, but...
The runic steed, if I recall.
Yeah, runic steed, the obsidian steed, which is in the middle, and I don't remember what the other one is. But those were all Kickstarter and summer backer items.
Cool.
Yeah. So it's nice to see those being modeled. Again, they
Show me the angel skin.
Yeah.
Show me the angel skin.
We're going to get to that. But... yeah, there's some pretty neat stuff. I actually really enjoyed the video they showed of how the chainmail works, like the 90 different variations of chainmail.
Yes, that was very fascinating part of the live stream. I really enjoyed watching them do that.
Mm-hmm. And I see chat room said, Steven has already said they're revamping the combat once again for the next test. That's why we've not actually heard a test being set.
Yeah, because it felt like the test went great, right? It felt like the servers were pretty good and things were pretty responsive.
Mm-hmm.
But
so I was surprised it's been this long.
But the only kicker is it really felt great, and all that good stuff. But like Aggelos said, there was no group.
Right. Yep.
No group work. So I'd like to see the same thing happen with groups.
Right.
Right.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because again, we're playing an MMO, which is meant to be a group thing. All right, let's go ahead and jump into the Q&A so that we actually have some of the stuff. I actually pulled a few of the questions that I thought were the most interesting. There's obviously more, but actually, I want to pull up the one since you mentioned this. Let me find it. It actually talks about the skins. I didn't have it on my list, but... how will you handle armor for special skins like Fire, Frost, Demonic, and Angelic. And the answer is, what will happen is those skins will all have a base race mesh that they're similar to. So Fire Ice skin will be represented by a character model of a human. So the armor donned in this model will represent a human mesh, while the Renkai would be Renkai Orc in size. I'm assuming they meant Demonic or Angelic, I guess, but they said Renkai in here.
Yeah.
We're not too sure, but probably one of the older meshes. I don't know how they're going to do the wings, though.
That was my question. So if you're a fire or a water elemental, your eyes are glowing, that kind of stuff. You can see that through a helmet, right? That all makes sense. But just like you said, what happens to the wings?
Right.
Just poke out the back and they just collision, clip through, don't think about it? Probably have to.
Yeah. All right, next question. Will the hardest raids be persistent across all realms? Each realm will have each realm will be specific to a region. So as a company, we've given a shout out to all those who managed to clear a raid first and maybe even include them in the lore. The thing that he simplified this, but the answer came down to is no. Because every raid is going to be unique
to that server. Yeah. You kill the dragon in the mountain on this server. That means on the other servers, that dragon's not slow. It's still there.
Can I point something out? Yeah. This actually kills any competitive raiding.
Yeah.
Competitive raiding from the WoW, as we know it, World of Warcraft perspective of world first raiding will not exist in Ashes of Creation.
Correct. Whoa.
There will be server first for downing the dragon in the mountain.
Right, but there's no competition because you can't confirm that it's going to pop up.
You can only pop up if you build the Metropolis in the right spot.
Unless they have, I don't think it's totally dead yet, unless they have some of these that are agnostic of what you build, node agnostic, if you will, that are just placed in the world at certain spots.
But they said they wouldn't. That's that whole question was, they said there's not going to be any raids that are not unique to a realm.
Oh, okay, then that kills it.
Meaning, like, there's not an instance dungeon where, hey, it's Molten Core. Yes, you can unlock a Molten Core.
Yeah.
But that Molten Core should be unlocked the same way across all realms.
Yeah, but it may not be.
It may not be. Yeah. I mean, we know that.
And there's no, and even if you could figure out that node A has to be a this, and everyone does it, that doesn't necessarily mean the entire server would unlock it at the exact same time.
Right. So there's no race.
Yeah. What makes competitive raiding is the fact that there is a new zone or new raids coming out, and it's the first person to down it.
Yeah, there is a definitive start time where everyone gets a start, and then first person there wins. I got you.
Yeah, so there will be no competitive ratings. I mean, there will be the, hey, we're going to down it because it's world first or server first on this realm, but the race scene is dead from a global perspective.
Right, now, I'm going to fight fast. Go ahead.
No, a server perspective could be completely different. I think there may be races on a server side.
That would be exciting. Like, you pop the Metropolis, it pops. All of a sudden, boom, the mountain erupts, and here comes a dragon. Then the race starts of who on that server is going to down that bad boy.
Right.
Yeah.
That would be fun.
But I think from a race perspective, like people watching Method trying to down Azara or the Molten Core won't happen because it can't.
Yeah, I got you.
So unless a group of players are all willing to roll in the same server, as this is the competitive raid server, so that
probably gonna happen.
It depends.
The streaming community all went to pretty much one server for a WoW Classic, right? So they might do that if there's enough interest in the game. They might all go, you know what, streaming community, let's pick this one.
It's possible, but how do you adequately represent that to people coming into the race?
Yeah. I don't know.
And I see chat saying, but competitive rating in WoW is only about 1% of the player base. Doesn't matter in a game like that. I'm not arguing the validity of whether it matters. I'm arguing not the importance of who's participating. I'm arguing whether or not it can physically exist in this system, which it can't. You know.
But instead, what we're going to have are all of these different servers building metropolises in all these different places, and all of a sudden the forum's freaking out because, oh my god, this server did this on this spot and look what happened. And that'll be really cool to see.
That will be pretty cool to see.
But
like,
seeing
this is what you guys got or did,
the servers evolve from a server side, I think that'll be unique and very neat.
If the developers don't play all their cards in Alpha 2 and Beta 1 and Beta 2.
Because when you think
show us everything.
When you think about it, what's going to be really cool is to see the number of alt rolling that'll happen on another server just because there's a completely different environment.
Yeah, what if you want to experience a different thing that your server can't offer you?
Right. Or even just for the sake of it, like, let's just say, you know, we've been playing for a year. Yeah. I wonder what this other server actually looks like, right? So we just take a character and go about, and it's completely different. Right?
What if you catch wind that server XYZ has spawned this crazy world event because of this thing they've done? Yeah. You just want to go make a quick level 1 to walk over and watch it happen.
Yeah. That's another problem that they have to... Actually, the more that we keep talking about it... Yeah. The more that we keep talking about it, I almost think it's impossible that they don't instance it. Like, unless they're going to come up with some crazy tech, I just don't see any way that it doesn't turn into some, like, huge spectacle.
Yeah. Because the streaming community does it, and they want to be on the server to see the event, and all of a sudden people are like, hey, our favorite streamers are on the server. Let's go check it. Oh, my God. It can get so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a game a long time ago called Astaria. And I'm trying to find it. It's pretty neat. It was probably one of the first games I've ever heard of that actually made it feel like a real world. And the reason why I said this is there were multiple different races like most other fantasy games, but this is one of the only games where players could actually play as a dragon. Okay?
Aww.
Like you were a dragon. Not a dragonoid. A dragon. And there were restrictions to that, like you didn't need gear because you were a freaking dragon. But there was on specific servers, I don't think it was an actual event. If I remember my story correctly, on specific servers, the developers hid a plague that when someone was mining, they unleashed a plague that only affected dragon characters.
What?
Which nerfed, essentially, gimped every single dragon player on that server until the server could come up with a cure.
Oh, wow.
It's weird.
Yeah.
Can we do that for elves?
I know, right? But
that reminds me of... Oh, no, never got it.
No, go ahead. No, what were you going to say?
That reminds me of the Wild Plague, if you remember. For some reason or another. Yeah. It reminded me of the Wild Plague.
Yes, it was. That one, though, was a bug, but it had the same idea.
Yeah.
But I thought it was really neat when I heard that story that because you were able to actually mine and use up ore nodes, but they hid a plague that was released by someone. They mined too greedily and too deep, and guess what? It hurt. Like literally, dragon players were some of the strongest players because they were dragons in the game. They did have a lot of... I think if you played a dragon on a server, you couldn't play anything else.
Yeah,
you were a combat. There was a lot, like you couldn't craft because you were a dragon. You didn't have hands. There was a lot of there were cool things for playing a dragon in Astaria, and not cool things. But to have this supposedly overpowered character to be gimped on the server because they got a plague that doesn't wear off, I thought was neat.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a side story, but again, pretty cool. All right. Do you currently have some kind of plan to adjust the forward movement on lunge attacks? And they answered, we did come away with some changes we plan to try out. It's the difference between exciting and fast, but also rooted and relatively realistic. It's been a primary topic for the past few design meetings. This is the primary purpose of Apocalypse, to collect data and feedback to prepare for the hybrid interactions and movement for the MMORPG. Lunge attack. Let's talk about that. What was the issue with Lunge and APOC this last patch?
You could still fly through the sky out of nowhere and go 15 feet up onto a balcony. Attack. Simply for movement. Like, I'm standing on the ground. I look up there and I go, hey, that second floor balcony, I'm going to go there. Boom, lunch sack, but I'm there. That might be their issue.
Maybe. And there's something about having the root lock in realistic combat, because it does make for, you have to think about what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When it's very quick, like, I don't want to down credit BDO, because if you're doing combos right, you're really good. But for most cases, there's animation cancels where when you miss, as long as you animation cancel, there's really not oh, wow, I messed up, and there's not a lot of risk and reward.
Yep.
But in other games, like when we saw New World, when they actually had people streaming it, when you committed to a lunge attack, if you missed, it hurt.
Yeah.
Because they actually, they offered some of the big news outlets that were allowed to record their footage, and you saw when the guy was playing, if he landed one of his charged lunges, it hurt the enemy. But if you missed,
you're wide open.
Yep.
Yep.
And there was a risk versus reward with that style of combat. Hello, kitty. Goodbye, kitty. All right. Will there be an auto walk, auto run feature? Yes, but not so much as a click on an icon and track quest, but a numlock auto run.
Disappointed. I'm disappointed. One thing I miss about BDO is being able to right click on the map, hit M, pull up the map, right click to the location I want to go, and autopath. It made life a bit easier for me. Give me a second to go make a sandwich, get a drink, whatever. I enjoy that. I miss it when playing WoW Classic.
I miss that as well, because even with the auto run, you have to still be kind of there.
Steering and paying attention, yep.
And I know with the auto pathing, some people don't like it, but there is a risk versus reward there. Your reward is you can go pick up a sandwich.
Yep.
The risk is if you're not actively watching. I've been killed multiple times on an auto run. You might get jumped. How many times in BDO have you been killed on an auto run?
Too many. I either hit a cliff and then the mobs killed me, or a player's like, hey, look at that dude on his horse going slow. Merc.
You could tell they're using the auto path.
Yeah.
Hello, kitty. How many times do I have to tell you not to get on my desk?
And I can't lie. The first day of playing WoW Classic, more than once, I hit M, pulled up my map, tried to autopath, and then went, I'm not playing BDO. What am I doing?
I made
the mistake multiple times.
Same thing.
It was embarrassing.
Oh, man.
I mean, I get why they don't do it, right? Because it makes it easier for third-party bots to have automation, right? It makes their lives a bit easier. But I feel like to prevent the exceptionally small minority from doing so, you're taking something from the majority. That I think a lot of people would enjoy given the opportunity to try it.
Right. Will there be positions of power within religions, such as apostle, pope, to influence the religion? There will be titles that you can achieve within a religion system. With those benefits come certain powers, unique access, unique quests, certain items, and more. Regarding the extra player agency stuff, will probably come later in an expansion. You could see cult leaders come in during a future Divine Node article about counterplay. I love this, and let me tell you why.
Everyone gets to join the Murder of Crow cult.
No, well, yes, but it's the murder. Hold on, let me step this back.
All right.
Joining an organization provides benefits. As long as it's not like the Elder Scrolls version where you can do everything.
Yeah.
I love the idea of unlocking powers and specific things based on committing to a specific faction.
Sure.
Yeah.
I also see a lot of parallels in this with the pirate faction in Arcade, where when you became pirate faction, you essentially gave up your East and West identity in order to get the benefits of being a pirate.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, that was pretty cool.
But you couldn't hold both. It's like, I can't be a Nubian, whatever it is. I don't really play Arcade, I just know the thing. I can't be the West side and also be a pirate. It was a give up. So
one or the other.
I want to see this religion system, or even any of the systems, if you're part of that. Yeah, maybe you could be religious and also be part of a merchant guild. But I think there should be hard like that counterplay. If I'm part of X religion, that literally blocks me off from things like Thieves Guild because that's anathema to the religion I'm with.
Or
Right,
you
right.
join the Murder of Crows and a Thieves Guild. Win-win.
Well, those could be, beneficial, organizations. I love the idea of you can raise and lower population. And even in classic WoW, there was a situation where you could raise Centaur rank, but it made you lose rep with the opposing faction.
Yeah, I grinded that out for levels.
Gelkis and
Screw the Magrams.
Magrum. Yeah, there you go.
The Magrams were closest to the Horde town, so I murdered them because by the vendors.
Right.
Poor guys. Those poor guys.
But I think that's neat as long as I want to see, as the chat says, the hard choices.
Yep.
Where you
I like
can
that as well too.
lock yourself out. You can gain access and you have to sit there and make that choice of, do I want these benefits knowing that it'll lock me out of these benefits?
Yeah. Or even taking it a step further, maybe not even lock out. Maybe because you joined, because you're a Catholic, you now have to pay X amount of money more than somebody else because you're in a predominantly, and I'm just using this as an example.
No, yeah.
You're in a predominantly Muslim town, right?
Yeah.
So, they're making you pay more because you are
if you're
part
following
of
an elf
this
religion
faction.
in the game, you can't follow a dwarf religion in the game.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Right.
Here, we'll go back in history. It could be you're following the Catholic Church, but you're living in a Lutheran town. The Lutherans broke away from the Catholic Church way back with Martin Luther and whatnot, to the point where they more or less hated one another.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it locks out, or you may be treated. That'd be really neat, is if you are a specific religion like our group. It doesn't have to be a religion. It could be any number of things, but you're looked at either positively or negative based on, you're the Catholic moving into a primarily Lutheran town.
Yeah.
Yep.
You're probably looked down upon because it's like, we don't even have a Catholic church in this town.
Yep.
Could be the same way.
Before we move on, I want to advertise one last time. Join the Chromanati, my personal cult, in Ashes of Creation. We are stationed in the Crowbar. If you want to apply, go to the Crowbar and speak to Hypercore Ripper behind the bar. He'll give you the application. That is the Chromanati cult.
That does lock you out of pretty much everything else in the game.
Everything else. You can't go no other religion when you join the Chromanati. Chromanati for life, baby.
No, you literally can't do any. You can't leave the Crowbar.
No, you can't leave the Crowbar unless you get plastered. You have to spend 10 silver in my Crowbar, then you're allowed to leave.
And I see Hypercore River about the cheeky wink and the glimpse of me cleavage. I've seen the ladies you make. No, I've seen the lady characters he makes in Sea of Thieves. You don't want that.
You don't want none of that.
You hard pass it unless you literally have to get blackout drunk. And then you finally go, he's kind of cute.
The reason you have to spend 10 silver in my bar is you must be that plastered because the leaving condition is a kiss from Grogcore Stripper.
Yep. You need like beer goggle laser surgery to get that out of your mind.
Yep.
Wow. Anyway.
Yep.
Little inside joke for those who used to watch the Sea of
Sea of
Thieves.
Thieves streams. Yeah.
All right. How do you feel about content so hard that only a small percent of players can actually complete it? We like it, and we want to see it in game. When that content comes in, and it's incredibly hard to do, eventually new chapters take place and levels get higher, and we have access to harder content. It gets trickled down and becomes more accessible to players. One of the components of a game being very interesting is the drive or chase to achieve something that is difficult to achieve. When you make an experience bland and achievable by everyone, it doesn't mean as much. We want it to feel like you've accomplished things. We also want to create content that the majority of our players can experience. So what was once limited to a limited audience becomes a broader audience as expansion stuff comes out. We want to make sure we have content for all different groups of players and different types to make a big community. I will say,
that's nothing new.
No, it's nothing new.
Yeah.
And
Molten Core is a top, and then eventually Blackwing Lair is a top. Molten Core is easier.
Yeah.
And eventually AQ40 and Molten Core is easier.
Yeah.
When World of Warcraft added LFR is when a lot, prove me wrong, but that's when a lot of my drive and I know you can't prove me with that loss, but a lot of the raiding community as a whole kind of dropped off.
The hardcore raiding community, emphasized. A lot of new people got into it because of it, but a lot of the hardcore were like...
There was something special. Like, I remember playing Final Fantasy XIV and doing the 2.0 and getting to Binding Coil, getting to Twintania was something that not everyone can do. There was a lot of instant kill mechanics. It was difficult. When second coil, there were even cutscenes which people complained about.
Yeah.
Because, I want to see the story too, but there's no way I can do Louis Sois, the Phoenix in that, because it's just too hard. But there were things like that when I was playing World of Warcraft back in the day, Classic, and I remember this specifically BC, seeing people getting ready to do Black Temple, knowing that the likelihood of me getting into Black Temple was there was no multiple, it was Black Temple.
Yeah.
But it gave me a goal, and so even though I was like, I'll probably never see that, and I didn't when it was live. It took me later. It was still a goal that kept me going.
Yeah, it's not the end of the world.
One quick thing on this topic, perspective people seem to forget. The 1% mentioned, right? This seems to be asked from the perspective of a person who loves to raid. Who loves to raid, who raids every week with their guild, they love raiding.
Yeah.
And what they are looking for is a really hard raid that, in his mind, 1% of people will do. But in his mind, that's 1% of raiders, right? How many people actually successfully raided Molten Core in the overall World of Warcraft population in Classic? 5%?
Let's use original Naxxramas. Original Naxxramas was less than 3%.
That's right. So you gotta be careful. Just because only 1% of people do it doesn't mean it's like that rare. Because raiders are already in the minority of people in an MMO.
Yeah.
If it's 1% of raiders, now that's some hardcore stuff. If only 1% of the raiding community manages to down this thing.
Right.
That's a challenge. Now, will Ashes provide that level of challenge? That there is like a world boss that only 1% of raiders can down? That'd be fascinating to see.
And here's the thing though. I based on the fact that there's no competitive raiding in a world first perspective.
In a world sense. Yeah.
Will they ever release a boss that is so hard that it instantly wipes towns?
Doesn't seem like a good idea.
No, it doesn't. You know what I mean?
Yeah, what if the dragon that comes out of the mountain is just tuned too high and it does wipe everything?
No one would build there again. That would literally just remove...
Or the Kraken in the sea or whatever, right?
Yeah, there are things... Now, again, are they going to put the sleeper out there from EverQuest 1? But that would then... They've already said...
Seraphim.
They've already said they're not doing that, but that's the only real way you can do that 1% of Raider type things.
Yeah.
Other than it being a hard reset. Because I'm sorry. Even the people doing the super hard raids... A random noob running up can really screw, like the guy who's like, "Oh, what's this taunt button do?" and taunts the the dragon away, faces everyone, fire breath, kills everyone.
Yeah, I would never do that to a raid. Who would do that? That sounds terrible.
I may or may not have done that.
I may have thought about it.
I used to do that in World of Warcraft when the Alliance grabbed a world boss that I knew how to cleave. I would fly in, taunt it, and face it towards the healer so it would cleave.
On my warrior, I've never charged into a pack of Alliance fighting a bunch of mobs and AoE feared. Never done it. Never. And they ran off and grabbed more mobs. I've never done that. That's just rude. Why would you do that?
I've not done that in at least the last 2 hours because I unlocked Intimidating Shout.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I may or may not have done that literally like 4 hours ago.
Yeah.
There was a bunch of Alliance running in Stone Talon Mountains.
Yeah.
And they were trying to kill a bunch of stuff. I ran in the middle and just feared them and their mobs, and they ran into more mobs.
They ran into mobs, and mobs got more mobs. Yeah, just hit his ass.
Because they were trying to pull very carefully.
Yeah. Nope.
I literally may have done that just like 2 hours ago. So it's not a thing. Anyway, let's talk about this last question here before we wrap up for the night. Crowjack,
we brought this up in the pre-show.
Yeah, we did. Will MMO hybrid combat be skill-based or gear-based in terms of who will win the fight? Now, I'll read this, but we'll talk about it and go in depth. The goal is to emphasize skill over gear. But gear will be very, and there's a lot of emphasis on this, important role in your ability to perform. But ultimately, the player with the higher skill level is going to have an edge in combat, so to speak. Like level 1 will never take on a level 60. But relatively within 5 to 10 levels, I'm still kind of iffy on that. We want to be where skill takes place. There are 3 components when it comes to balance, when it comes to one-on-ones, which they're not even balanced for anyway, by the way. Oh, which they actually say, which we aren't balancing for. We're balancing for group versus group. We look at level progression, gear progression, and class choice. Those 3 things play together the largest role in determining your efficiency in battle. Skill is the weight that tips the scales in people's favor. So higher skill player below 5 to 10 levels would be able to tip the balance due to skill. But below the 5 to 10 levels, it'll be extremely difficult to balance things out. So classes will be better than others. Your raid composition will play an important role. Let's talk a bit about this question.
First thing, before we even get to the actual crux of it, which is gear versus skill, they mentioned one very simple fact in here. 1v1s are not going to be balanced, which means the perception of the population is going to be that there is no skill involved because these classes are not balanced for each other. They're not balanced one-on-one. The rogue class is going to dominate a clothy, and it's not going to be fair, right? So they're going to be like, there's no skill involved. I got dominated by this guy. Well, it's because it's not balanced this way. So even without bringing in the gear or no gear or skill or no skill equation, just the fact that it's not being baseline balanced for 1v1, people are going to have this perception that there is no skill involved right from the get.
I remember a long time ago, this was a question I was asking on a live stream. Someone's like, if I'm good enough, can I defeat like a raid boss by myself, like at level 1?
That's a little like...
You've obviously never played an RPG before.
Yeah.
I get your Dark Souls, great, but that's not what an MMO is about.
Yeah. Now, again, you hit it. Let's hit it right here. Gear beats skill in MMORPGs specifically. That is what they're designed to do. You play the game to get the gear to be better than you were before. Skill is a factor. But if you want skill to be the predominant thing, go play an FPS. Go play Sea of Thieves if shooters are your things. So go play a MOBA, right? Like League of Legends, where there's no gear and your skill will win. Go play, there's a million other ways you can play a non-gear based system. MMOs are about acquiring power, or about getting stronger. And if you spend more time, a level 60 in WoW with 1,000 hours of raiding and gearing up is going to beat a fresh level 60 every single time with his eyes closed without even trying. That's just the way MMOs are.
Yeah. No, it is. And I don't think you're going to get away from that.
No, you can't. You lose the essence of what it means to play these games.
Yep. One of the main points that I think that a lot of people play is there's that natural gear progression, if you will.
Power.
Yep.
The other one's wealth, the acquisition of wealth and building of wealth. That's another segment, but that can lead to power, and power can lead to wealth.
I think,
and then there's a social aspect, but that's not related.
I think I like the idea of gear being important, but I also don't like the gear. I think what scares people so much with this is anyone who played BDO. A full Tet pen person.
Yeah, versus a green geared 56. Just like, yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, there's that level where no matter what, you can't even touch them.
Yeah, now, so that's the main question. How much does gear matter in your MMO? And each MMO is a bit different.
Right. And I think there's a right and a wrong level. BDO is definitely a wrong level. Like if you were in full pen, like everything pen boss gear,
God mode.
I don't even think you have to touch your keyboard. People die just looking at you. Like,
yep.
It is like if someone's actually that geared, I fought people who were that geared. They didn't even pay attention. I'm like hitting them and they're just like, I don't know, not even at their keyboard. They're taking a dump at their toilet or something like that. Like,
World of Warcraft has done a pretty good job. Let's say a Molten Core geared mage who's not very good at PvP because they're versus a blue geared PvP focused rogue. The rogue can win that.
I
Because the
honestly,
mage isn't very good at PvP. The rogue can win that.
my favorite is, I think, no one at the same level and wearing same level of gear. So let's talk World of Warcraft, for instance. A level 60 in all level 60 greens versus a level 60 in all level 60 purples. There should only be about a 20% damage or 20% difference.
Yeah.
And it goes up by like 5% per.
Yeah, not
Rarity
taking
pool.
classes into account. The same class, like rogue versus rogue, warrior versus warrior. It's
Yeah.
the same class, right? Don't complicate it.
A rogue in all purples that are 60 should do 20% more damage. I'm just throwing the number out there.
Yeah, we're just making it up.
Versus a rogue in 60 all greens.
Yeah.
And then when they go to all blues, now it's only 15%, or or whatever. I mean,
Give room for some skill to make up some of that difference, right?
Yeah.
But man, if you've got this rogue sitting there in BWL gear or sitting there in AQ40 gear versus the greens dude, man, the greens dude should never win.
Right.
At that point, when you're that many raid tiers removed, like I don't care what you do as the green guy, like you should not stand a chance.
I mean, if the person's playing incredibly awful, like,
Yeah, like they're a raider, they don't have a PvP spec, they don't realize that Vanish re-stealths them, just full dum dum.
or even from a APOC stance, the battle. If I shoot 4 arrows at you, but I only hit 1 out of every 4 because I'm just not good.
Yep.
Yeah, a person in all green should be able to kill me if they're really good at it. But then again, I'm exceptional. It'll take you longer
Yep.
because I have higher health, whatever.
But now we're not talking about an MMO anymore.
It could be.
Kinda.
Sort of. Anyway.
Yeah.
That could be a thing for a whole other time. But anyway, we've reached the end of our show tonight. So I want to thank my awesome co-host, Alpha Soul. Check out all the stuff he does over at _alpha_soul, making a lot of Ashes of Creation content videos. And of course, Mr. Crowjack. Everywhere that's Mr. Crowjack on all the socials, Twitch, YouTube now, I think.
Yeah.
And yeah, everywhere else. He streams daily. Check it out, guys. A lot of fun. And of course, you can follow everything we do over at dungeoncrawlernetwork.com. There you find links to all of our social media, including Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. Be sure to check out our Patreon program, patreon.com/dungeoncrawlernetwork, if you want to help support the show. You can also leave us a 5-star review, which we haven't got any in a while, so that'd be great if you guys did, on iTunes, so people know that we are a real podcast, that we say real words. Sometimes they matter. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of From the Ashes, and we'll see you next time. See you later.